You've just walked into the Bot and Barrel, your favorite dive bar in the grimy streets of New York. The rain outside is relentless, echoing the rhythm of the neon signs that flicker erratically like a heartbeat. The bar's usual cacophony of mechanical chatter and the clinking of glasses fills your audio receptors as you take a seat at the counter. The air is thick with the aroma of grease and the faint metallic scent of rainwater mixing with the oil on the floor.
The usual VZ?
The grizzled robotic bartender asks, already starting to pour your favorite brew. A pint of cheap neon lager. You nod, your LED eyes scanning the room filled with a peculiar assortment of patrons. The usual suspects, mechanical riffraff, desolate humans, and the occasional alien, all here to escape the grind of the city's relentless pace. As you take the first sip, the door to the bar slams open, and a tall human woman, her figure shrouded in a heavy cloak, stumbles in. The water droplets on the fabric illuminated by the garish lights. The murmur of conversation dims as the newcomer approaches the bar, her steps deliberate and urgent. You can almost feel the weight of her distress, heavy with the promise of a case that's anything but ordinary. The cloak is drawn back, revealing Lady Victoria Castellanos, the matriarch of the Castellanos family, known throughout the city for their vast beer-brewing empire. Her eyes, gleaming with the cold fire of ambition in every holopic and interview you've ever seen, are now filled with the desperation that even her flawless organic skin can't conceal. She looks around the room, as if searching for someone, before her gaze settles on you.
VZ, right?
She says, her voice trembling.
I've heard of your unique talents. I need your help.
You know, I have an office, Miss Castellanos. I don't normally take on cases in bars.
How did she even find you here? Lady Victoria Castellanos nods, a glimmer of hope flickering in her eyes.
My apologies for the unconventional approach, but time is of the essence. My daughter, Evelyn, has gone missing. We've searched everywhere, notified the authorities, but to no avail. The family is willing to pay whatever it takes for her safe return.
She slides a data chip across the bar to you, the information within likely detailing the case and the substantial reward. You pick up the chip, your circuits buzzing with curiosity. Missing persons cases were common in New York, but one involving the Castellanos family was bound to be more complex than the average jilted spouse or gambling debt gone sideways.
What makes you think I can find her where the cops can't?
My sources say you know the city's underbelly like the back of your hand, and that it's a hand that you're not afraid to get dirty.
Lady Victoria's voice is a mix of desperation and resolve, a cocktail of human emotion that you've learned to recognize all too well in your line of work.
The police department is... They're not even the strongest gang in the city anymore, are they?
You glance down at the data chip, the holographic label glinting in the bar's dim light. It's not often that the upper echelons of society come looking for you in a place like this, but the name Castellanos carries weight, and the thought of their gratitude, and the credits that come with it, it's too tempting to ignore. You sip your beer, considering your options.
All right,
You say finally.
I'll take the case.
The tension in Lady Victoria's shoulders visibly relaxes, and a ghost of a smile crosses her lips.
Thank you, VZ.
She says, her voice thick with relief.
I'll have any new information sent to your office.
She reaches into her purse and pulls out a business card, sliding it to you with a metallic whisper.
Contact me as soon as you have any lead.
With that, she gathers her cloak and exits the bar, leaving a trail of quiet whispers in her wake. The other patrons return to their drinks, the momentary drama forgotten in their eternal quest to dull the pain of existence. You slip the data chip into your pocket, the weight of the case already settling in your chest compartment. You know that a simple missing persons case rarely remains simple in this city, and heiresses to brewing empires are rarely just missing.
Looks like you got yourself a big fish, eh?
The bartender says, sliding over a second beer in a takeaway cup. You nod, the gears in your head already turning. You reply,
Yeah, and I've got a feeling it's gonna be a hell of a ride.
your voice a low rumble of anticipation. You finish your first pint, the alcohol in the beer fueling your systems, and stand up, the hydraulics in your legs hissing gently. You toss a few credits on the bar, enough to cover your tab and leave a generous tip. The bartender nods in approval, his single optic sensor blinking.
Good luck.
He says, his voice a gruff acknowledgement of the gravity of your new mission. You step out into the relentless downpour, the rain pitter-pattering on your adamantium exterior as you make your way to the nearest transport tube station. The neon lights of the city reflect off the slick streets, creating a disorienting array of colors that dance before your eyes. Upon reaching the station, you toss the foam beer cup in a trash receptacle and step into the warm, dry confines of the tube. You swipe your credit chip and announce your destination is VZ Investigations. The tube activates with a wheeze, like a sucking chest wound, and you're off, the city's skyline blurring into streaks of light as you zoom through the labyrinthine network towards the less affluent part of town where your office is located. When you arrive, the tube doors hiss open, and you step out into the grimy alley that's home to your office. The journey is quick and uneventful, with the usual mix of humans and robots avoiding eye contact and minding their own business. Your office is a small, cluttered space, with a hollow placard flickering outside that reads, Private Investigations, with a taped-on addition, Robots Welcome. The door slides open, and a bell jingles weakly, echoing in the emptiness. Inside, the air is stale, filled with the scent of old paper and the faint acridity of burnt circuitry. The room is lined with metal filing cabinets, a desk cluttered with half-finished reports and empty beer bottles, and a single chart that's seen better days. You plop down in it, the springs groaning in protest. From your coat pocket, you retrieve the data chip that Lady Victoria gave you.
I think I'd like another drink first.
From a drawer, you pull out a soy plastic bottle of cheap whiskey. Its label depicting a snarling, three-eyed turkey. The amber liquid inside sloshes around, a silent promise of oblivion in a city that rarely offers anything else. You take a swig, the harsh burn of the whiskey coating your robotic throat, and the warmth spreads through your circuits. The alcohol doesn't have the same intoxicating effect on you as it would on a human, but it does serve to loosen the tension that's been building in your hydraulics since you took the case. The glow from the neon sign outside casts eerie shadows on the walls, the only real light in the room coming from the flickering screens of various devices scattered across the desk. The data chip glitters in the dim light. It's time to get to work. You incautiously insert the data chip into the slot on the side of your head, and the room goes dark as the information floods into your system. The walls of your office seem to expand and contract as you process the details of Evelyn Castellanos' disappearance, surveillance footage from the night of the gala, her last known communications, and a list of her known associates. The images and sounds play out in your mind's eye with the clarity of a high-definition recording, your processors sifting through the data at lightning speed. You see Evelyn, a young woman with the poise of royalty, interacting with guests at the gala, her smile forced but her eyes sharp. The last message from her is a simple text. On my way home, don't wait up. But she never arrived. The data reveals that Evelyn had been receiving anonymous threats prior to her disappearance, and she had been secretly involved with a group of cyberpunks known for their anti-corporate activities. A potential lead, you think to yourself. But it's the mention of a recent acquisition by the Castellanos Brewing Corporation that catches your attention, a small underground speakeasy. With the whiskey bottle now a quarter empty, you stand up, the chair groaning in relief.
Looks like I've got a starting point.
You murmur to the empty room, your voice a mix of synthetics and a gritty, noir-inspired drawl. You feel a whir in your gut. Your emotion simulators don't like this setup at all. The details of the case are murky. Why'd she purchase a bar in a bad part of town? You need to run this by Zoltowitz, the craboid bum that lives outside. He'll help you out if you bribe him with some whiskey. You step out into the rain-soaked alley, the whiskey bottle still in hand. Neon lights cast a garish glow over the puddles, making them seem like molten pools of metal in the darkness. There's still a few hours until morning. Mr. Zoltowitz, a craboid alien with a penchant for whiskey and cryptic wisdom, is huddled in his usual spot, a pile of discarded metal and plastic that he's fashioned into a makeshift shelter. You approach him, the rain pattering on your hat.
Hey, Mr. Z, I've got a little something for you.
The alien's eyes light up at the sound of your voice, and he shuffles over to you, his multiple limbs moving with surprising grace over the slick ground. You offer him the whiskey, and he takes it with a grateful click of his claws.
What brings you out in this weather, my metal friend?
His voice is a warm symphony of lilts broken up by decades of alcoholism.
Got a case that's got me scratching my circuits.
You slot the chip into a hollow display and plant it in his open claw.
The Castellanos' heiress, Evelyn, went missing after leaving a gala. Got some info here about her buying a bar in a bad part of town right before she disappeared. Thought you might have some insight.
Mr. Zoltowitz takes the display with surprising gentleness and holds it up to one of his multifaceted eyes. He squints, and you can see the data reflected in his cornea as he reads. He takes a swig from the bottle, the whiskey disappearing into his bulbous throat with an audible gulp.
Ah, yes.
He murmurs, his other eyes still focused on the display.
I've heard whispers about that place.
The dive bar?
Mr. Zoltowitz nods his head, the bottle of whiskey in his claw tilting precariously.
The Dionysian. The clandestine speakeasy, if I'm not mistaken. Rumor always was. That place had smuggling tunnels underneath it. A few months ago, it was taken over by a chromed-up gangster that they call Blender. He's got his claws in all sorts of pots, that one.
He takes another swig, the bottle now half empty.
Evelyn Castellanos, buying that place doesn't sit right. It's a snake pit, that bar.
You extend your ocular dust covers by 25%.
What's your angle on this, Mr. Z?
Mr. Zoltowitz wipes his mouth with the back of his claw, his movements deliberate.
Well, she was a smart cookie, that one. If she bought that bar, she had to have had a reason. And if she's been receiving threats, it's likely she knew something. Or someone.
He pauses, his gaze distant, as if piecing together a puzzle only he can see.
The trick is finding out what she knew and who wanted to keep her quiet, and why.
You nod, your thoughts racing.
Could be she stumbled onto something big. Something worth kidnapping an heiress over.
Mr. Zoltowitz cackles, a sound that's more like the rustling of dead leaves than laughter.
Big enough for Blender to risk the wrath of the Castellanos family. That's saying something. But it's worth looking into, yes. The Dionysian isn't a place for soft circuits, though.
You look down at the crab, his words echoing your own concerns, you say.
Yeah, I've got a feeling this isn't going to be a walk in the park.
Your voice tinged with a hint of anticipation.
But it's not my first time in the jungle, and I've got a few tricks up my sleeve.
Mr. Zoltowitz's eyes seem to gleam in the neon glow, reflecting the myriad of thoughts racing through his ancient mind. He hands the holo display back to you with a claw that feels surprisingly warm, almost comforting.
Remember VZ,
He says, his voice dropping to a whisper.
the streets of New York are a chessboard, and every pawn has its king. Be wary of who you trust.
Thanks for the chat, Mr. Z. I'll bring you a pizza if I survive.
You tip your fedora to Mr. Zoltowitz, the rainwater beading off your adamantium chassis as you turn away. The craboid nods sagely, tucking the whiskey bottle into his makeshift shelter. His words of caution hang in the air as you stride back into the neon-lit streets of New York. The rain has lessened to a misty drizzle, but the city's grip on the night remains as tight as ever. The Dionysian looms ahead, a grimy beacon in the dark. A few minutes later, you enter the tube station, the air thick with the scent of ozone and dampness. The neon lights flicker and hum as you navigate the grimy terminal, the sound of your footcups echoing against the wet metal floor. You slide your credit chit into the reader and select the red hologram district as your destination. The tube's doors close with a hiss, and you feel the familiar lurch as your chassis shoots through the dark underbelly of the city. Upon arrival, the tube opens to reveal a starkly different scene. The red hologram district is a cacophony of color and light, where holographic billboards advertise the latest in robotic entertainment and neon signs pulse with the rhythm of a digital heartbeat. The rain here seems to dance in the holographic projections, creating a mesmerizing spectacle of liquid light. You spot a street vendor with a glowing sign that reads, "Get your cold, frothy beer here." Despite the urgency of your mission, your craving for a good brew is ever present. You approach the vendor and order a beer. He hands you a bottle with a robotic smile, and you notice the label bears the image of a stylized, retro-futuristic, ancient Greek statue. The muscular alabaster human clutches a bunch of grapes, which have been drawn to resemble hops. You crack it open, the hiss of carbonation punctuating the din of the city around you. The beer is surprisingly good, a crisp, clean taste that cuts through the urban grit. You down it in a few gulps, feeling the warmth spread through your circuits. It's not the same as the whiskey, but it's a different kind of comfort, a reminder of the simple pleasures in life amidst the chaos of the city. You toss the empty can into a recyclable bin, the satisfying clank a small victory in a world that often feels out of your control. You continue on to the Dionysian, the rain now a light mist that clings to your coat. It's nestled between a pawn shop that deals in used cybernetics and a robotic strip club called Bubble Bots. The nondescript entrance is marked by a single purple LED strip, barely noticeable. It's a place that wants to be found, but only by the right kind of people. As you casually enter the Dionysian, the scent of wet fabric and stale beer fills your olfactory sensors. The security antechamber's lights flicker over you, scanning for concealed weapons. With the wheeze of an unathletic child, the door opens to reveal a smoky room dimly lit by candles and neon lights. The plasticine furniture is worn and stained, a testament to the speakeasy's popularity. The clientele is a mix of robots, spliced humans and aliens, all with a shady aura, conferring in silent tones. The air is thick with the smell of pungent soy gas smoke and the faint undercurrent of something else, something organic and wet. In the center of the room is a circular bar, the bartender, a towering cylindrical construct of chrome and leather, with a set of mechanical arms that juggle bottles in a mesmerizing dance. A jazz band, all robots save for the trombonist, plays a mournful tune from the corner, their brass instruments gleaming with condensation. The patrons glance up at your entrance, their eyes lingering on your adamantium frame before returning to their drinks. You casually approach the bar, the clank of your footsteps echoing through the smoky room. The towering bartender robot nods at you as you take the emptiest seat, a gesture that seems to be more of a greeting than a question. The bar is a sleek blend of metal and synthetic wood, sticky with the residue of countless spilled drinks. The bartender, an aesthetic blend of chrome and leather, stops his bottle juggling for a brief moment to acknowledge your presence with a metallic nod.
What'll it be, metal man?
He asks, his voice a mix of gears and jazz.
How about an old-fashioned?
You reply to the leather robot. The bartender nods at your request. He reaches below the counter and with a series of metallic whirs, produces a glass filled with a deep yellow liquid and a single floating ice cube. He places it in front of you with a flourish of his mechanical arm. The drink is not what you expected. Instead of the familiar whiskey and bitters, it's a frothy concoction of what appears to be beer with a mysterious golden hue. You detect a hint of something.
Unknown query.
In the scent. The patrons of the bar continue their hushed conversations, occasionally casting sidelong glances your way. A couple of them lean in closer to each other, their eyes flicking toward you, staring in unison. The jazz band plays on, seemingly oblivious to the tension. As you sip the beer, you feel a subtle shift in your perception. The room feels a tad warmer, and the edges of your vision seem to blur just slightly. The beer tastes like a mix of your favorite brew and something exotic. It's intoxicating, but in a way that's unfamiliar, almost seductive. You're about to ask the bartender about the recipe when you hear heels clicking behind you. You turn to see Lila Castellanos, Evelyn's sister, looking as out of place in the speakeasy as a diamond in a dumpster. Her voice is a mix of sultry confidence and urgent warning.
Hey, handsome,
She says loudly, playing up the role of a tipsy street walker. Then, leaning in closer so only you can hear, she whispers,
play along, jerk face.
It's clear she's trying to maintain a cover. Her eyes dart around the room, hinting at the tension and danger that lies beneath the veneer of the Dionysian's shady atmosphere. The patrons of the speakeasy, already curious about your presence, now have an even more intriguing spectacle to observe.
Hey baby, are you working?
You say equally loudly.
Let's you and me get out of here.
She stares back at you and shakes her head with tight lips.
All right, how about let's get a booth?
The bartender nods at your loud proclamation and gestures towards the back of the speakeasy where a row of booths are tucked away, slightly more private than the bar stools. The jazz band's tempo seems to pick up slightly, as if they're playing along with the drama unfolding before them. Lila, maintaining her facade, giggles and sashays towards the indicated booth, casting glances back at the increasingly curious patrons. You follow her, feeling the weight of the room's stairs on your adamantium shoulders. The booth is a cramped affair, the synth leather sticky with age and spilled drinks. Lila slides in opposite you, her eyes scanning the room before they settle on yours. She leans in close, her voice a hushed whisper that pierces the din.
You must be the PI.
VZ, I'm gathering that you have been investigating on your own and now are in need of rescue. Is that about right?
Lila's smile fades and she nods, her eyes wide with a mix of relief and desperation.
Yes, I've been here for hours, and every time I've gone for the door, the other patrons will block me, wordlessly, which I find unsettling. I've been looking for Evelyn. I followed her financial records here, but I didn't expect to find this.
She waves a hand at the peculiar beer you ordered. No, wait, you ordered whiskey.
What's up with the beer? It's really good.
Lila leans in closer, her eyes narrowing slightly at the mention of the beer.
You like it?
She asks, her voice tinged with curiosity.
No matter what you order, the bartender serves that beer. He'll say it's made from an ancient recipe, but it's got a kick to it. A little too much for my taste.
She glances around the speakeasy nervously.
I think it's more than just a beer. It's like it's got something in it. Something that changes the way you think, the way you feel. I've seen these people get weird after drinking too much of it. Bots, too, I'm afraid.
Her gaze lands on a group of patrons in the corner, who seem to be in a particularly heated debate. gesticulating wildly as they drink from mugs of the golden brew. It resembles a typical dive bar scene, except no one is speaking. The bartender's mechanical eyes track the group for a moment before returning to his bottles. His movement seemingly unconcerned. You produce a synthetic grunt.
I don't know about any street drug that does that.
It's no street drug. It's something else. Something dangerous.
Lila nods solemnly, her eyes reflecting the neon lights from the bar.
I heard whispers of a new strain of fungus that's been going around in corporate labs, including ours. They called it cerebriceps. Some kind of alien GMO, supposed to enhance cognitive functions, but the effects are unpredictable. Some say it makes you smarter, sharper. Others say it turns you into a zombie servant, I guess is the most accurate phrase.
She looks around the room again, her gaze lingering on the patrons who seem to be under the beer's influence. You consider her words, taking another sip of the peculiar beer. The taste is still delightful, but the thought of it being a mind-altering substance is troubling.
So you think your sister might have gotten involved in this?
Your voice is a synthesis of concern and skepticism.
Stop drinking it, idiot.
Lila hisses.
You're gonna get zombified and I need you to get me out of here. Here's my theory. Maybe Evelyn's division got a hold of a sample and decided to go ahead with tests without telling anyone. I don't know for sure, but I found some emails on her personal server about a Project Amandus. It's gotta be related. They're serving it here, so maybe they're making it here. I want to see the cellar.
How do you propose we get down there without drawing attention? We ain't exactly incognito.
As you lean back into the sticky embrace of the booth, eyeing the patrons of the speakeasy with newfound suspicion, Lila nods at your question. She reaches into her purse and pulls out a small, sleek device.
I've got this,
she says, flipping it open to reveal a holographic keyboard.
It's a universal hacking tool. I figured it might come in handy, considering the Dionysian's reputation.
She types a few commands, and the device emits a soft beep.
There's a service entrance by the stage that leads to the kitchen and the cellar. We can use that.
She looks around the room, her gaze lingering on the bartender.
But we need to be careful. I've seen how people act after they've had too much of that beer. They might get aggressive.
That could work, yeah.
You pause for a moment to recrunch the numbers. They come out the same.
Let's dance.
You stand up from the booth with a flourish, offering your hand to Lila. She looks at you with a mix of surprise and trepidation before taking your hand, allowing you to pull her to her feet. You guide her through the speakeasy, her heels clicking a rhythm on the damp floor that seems to syncopate with the jazz band's music. The patrons, already buzzing with the unusual beer, watch you intently as you make your way to the dance floor. As you begin to dance, you notice that the room has become a tableau of lethargy and suspicion, the only movement coming from the bartender. Its juggling is ceaseless. The band plays on, their robotic limbs moving in a semblance of human passion. You lean into Lila, whispering in her ear.
You're a terrible dancer, kid.
She laughs, a genuine, unguarded sound that seems out of place in this dingy, tense environment. The dance floor is sticky with spilled drinks, the air thick with the smell of sweat and desperation. You lead Lila in a series of basic moves, keeping her close, making sure your every step is calculated to bring you closer to the stage. The patrons of the speakeasy watch you with a mix of confusion and curiosity, their eyes glazed over with the effects of the mysterious beer. The bartender's gaze lingers on you for a moment too long, but then it moves on, dismissing you as just another pair of drunks. As you perform the Susie Q, a laterally moving dance from a bygone era, you guide Lila closer to the service door located beside the stage. The patrons of the speakeasy continue to watch, some with mild interest, others with a hint of confusion or suspicion. The robotic jazz band plays on, seemingly oblivious to the tension in the room. You manage to position yourselves directly in front of the door, the beat of the music masking the sound of your final steps.
Get mad at me,
you whisper, and bring the dance to a close by stomping on Lila's foot. Your adamantium foot cup smashes her metatarsals.
Asshole!
She yelps before realizing what you're up to.
You stupid metal brute.
She pushes dramatically against your chassis and storms off through the swinging kitchen doors. The patrons' gazes follow the spectacle, and the bartender's eyes narrow. You play the part of the jilted dance partner, feigning embarrassment, and follow Lila through the doors, allowing them to swing shut behind you. Out in the bar, the bouncer, a hulking mass of gene-modded muscle and chrome, turns to follow you. His eyes glow red with suspicion as he watches the kitchen doors swing shut. But before he can take a step, the bartender's metallic hand snaps out, catching him by the wrist. He keeps juggling one-handed, the bottles in the air seemingly unbothered by the sudden tension.
You just sit tight, muscle man. No blender will be here any minute.
The bartender's voice is a smooth purr over the clinking glass. You slip into the kitchen behind Lila. She limps forward and leans against a prep table, her eyes narrowed against the lingering pain from your unexpected move.
Thanks for the subtle exit.
She mutters, trying to keep her voice down. The room is a stark contrast to the chaos of the bar, deserted and orderly. The walls are lined with stainless steel appliances, gleaming under the harsh fluorescent lights, and the floor shimmers with a thin, even coating of grease left behind by lazy mopping technique. There's a stack of plastic crates on the table behind Layla. Each bottle is labelled with a picture of a Greek statue holding a bouquet of what look like hops, just like the beer you had bought earlier. You quickly scan the kitchen, looking for any signs of a hidden passage or a way to access the cellar. Sort of hiding behind a deep fryer in the far corner, you spot a trapdoor, slightly ajar. It seems to be the only way to proceed from here. That wet, error-inducing scent is certainly coming from down there.
There it is.
You point out to Lila. Lila hobbles over to the trapdoor, wincing slightly as she puts weight on her bruised foot. She reaches into her handbag and pulls out a tiny flashlight, flicking it on and shining it down into the dark abyss below. A rickety ladder leads down into the cellar, the walls lined with kegs and crates, and a faint, pulsing light periodically bathes the room in red. You can hear a faint humming sound, which could be the speakeasy's power supply or something more sinister. The smell wafting out of the cellar grows stronger, making it clear that you're on the right track. You nod at Lila, and she nods back, gritting her teeth against the pain. She's in this as deep as you are now. You carefully descend the ladder into the cellar, your eyes rapidly adjusting to the dim light. The room is cluttered with a variety of brewing equipment, and the air is thick with that cloying, moist scent. The red pulsing emanates from a series of containment pods along the far wall, each holding a writhing mass of grotesque, unidentified fungus. The fungi host a dozen catheters each, with yellow medical tubing that all feed into a single steel drum. The humming sound is louder here, and you can feel a faint vibration in the floor. You spot a control panel nearby, which appears to govern the light and the power behind the pods. The layout of the cellar suggests that there are passages beyond the immediate view. Maybe those tunnels old Mr. Z had mentioned.
Looks like we found the source.
Lila murmurs as she clambers down the ladder. Her eyes are glued to the pods, and you can see the horror in her pupils, dilated with fear. The pods seem to pulse in time with the music above, the fungus inside wriggling and squirming as if dancing to an unheard rhythm. You make a mental note to ask your mechanic about adding a gag reflex. The humming is definitely coming from the pods. It's growing louder with each step you take toward them. The vibrations in the floor make your servos vibrate in a way that's both unsettling and oddly comforting. It's got to be the heartbeat of the operation.
Cerebriceps.
You muse aloud.
Evelyn.
Lila calls out, her voice echoing through the cellar. But there's no answer. Only the faint hiss of gas escaping from somewhere and the rhythmic throb of the pods. You can see the hope draining from her eyes as she realizes her sister isn't here.
We need to find her,
she says, her voice firm despite the pain etched on her face. She hobbles over to the control panel and plugs the hacking tool into it. The panel flickers to life, displaying a complex web of blue lines and symbols that make no sense to you. But Lila seems to understand it, her eyes darting over the information like a hawk spotting prey.
Oh no, Evelyn, what were you doing?
She looks back at you.
Those things are running on a Castellanos Corp proprietary OS.
She whispers, her eyes wide with shock.
Project Amandus, it's all here.
Her fingers dance over the control panel, bypassing firewalls and encryption with ease. The red pulse of the pod seems to quicken in response. You watch as she pulls up schematics and logs, her expression growing more and more grim with each passing moment.
It's a neurotropic research project. They've been studying the effects of cerebriceps on the brain. The beer, it's just a delivery system for the fungus's spores. It's supposed to enhance cognitive functions. But if it's not processed correctly...
She trails off, swiping through pages of data.
Okan turns it into a nice little mind control potion.
A rasping synthesized voice echoes through the room. A colossal cyborg crashes through the trapdoor, shattering the relative calm. The cyborg's metallic limbs gleam under the pulsing red light as he lands with a thud that makes the floor tremble. He's followed by half a dozen heavily armed, spliced-up goons, each of them packing a street-built Tommy gun.
You know the drill.
The cyborg says, leveling a slug thrower at you, his grin a grotesque display of chrome teeth and wires.
Hands up and no sudden moves. Blenda don't take kindly to uninvited guests.
Maybe this gentleman can tell us where the bathroom is, honey.
The cyborg, the infamous Blender, chuckles at your attempt to defuse the situation.
Cute.
He says, his grin widening as he pops you in the chest plate with his projectile pistol. The bullet strikes you center mass, and your auto-diagnostic registers minor denting in your adamantium shell. Lila gasps, throwing up her hands, but still grasping the hack tool.
Ouch, you stinking louse, that hurt.
You growl, your voice a mix of annoyance and the pain that you're programmatically designed to feel. You don't let the artificially induced pain show on your face, though. It's all part of the job.
Shut up, flat foot.
He pops you again, same spot. You wince internally and shuffle towards Lila.
Look, pal,
You say, raising your hands slowly.
we're just here for the girl.
Ah, the girl.
Blender says, his grin morphing into a leer.
Evelyn. Such a lovely specimen, isn't she?
He saunters closer, his goons fanning out behind him like a pack of hungry dogs.
But she's not just any girl, is she? She's the key to the city, and I aim to unlock her potential.
Lila's eyes narrow with rage.
You leave her out of this.
She snaps. Blender tilts his head, considering her for a moment.
Feisty, aren't we?
He takes a step closer to the both of you.
You see, this here fungus,
He says, waving his free hand at the pods.
it's the future of this city. Where did I can make anyone do anything I want? And your sister.
He sneers.
She's not just the first test subject, she's the interface.
Lila's eyes narrow even further, her grip on the hacking tool tightening.
What do you mean, interface?
Blender's leer widens.
She's been modified.
He says, gesturing to his head.
Evelyn's got a little extra something in her noggin. An experimental upgrade, courtesy of our friends from Castellano's Corp's Off the Books Labs.
You see the horror in Lila's eyes as she looks from the pods to Blender, then back to you. She's trying to piece together what's happening here, and you can tell she doesn't like the picture she's seeing.
What have you done to her?
She demands, her voice shaking. Blender's smile doesn't waver.
Let's just say she's gonna help me show the city the true power of Cerebriceps. But enough chit-chat.
He says, waving his pistol.
You two should have stayed out of this. Now, you're just gonna have to be part of the revolution.
One of the goons hands him a syringe.
When we dilute it with our famous ancient Greek lager, it takes a few rounds for the spores to really grip into you. Most immune systems don't like them, but we're working on that.
He taps the syringe.
2 drams injected into the blood, though, works instantly.
You glance at Lila, trying to signal her with your eyes. She catches your meaning immediately. She nods almost imperceptibly, gripping the hacking tool a little tighter. You notice her hand shaking slightly, but she's not going to let fear override her determination to save her sister. The cyborg, Blender, doesn't seem to notice your silent exchange, too busy gloating about his nefarious plans. His goons keep their weapons trained on you both, the tension in the room thick enough to cut with a plasma saw.
Now, hold still.
Blender says, gesturing for one of his goons to step forward. The goon approaches you with the syringe, his eyes cold and uncaring. You know that if you refuse, things are going to get much, much worse. Lila quickly assesses the environment, her eyes flicking over the various systems and machinery in the cellar. With a swift, calculated move, she subtly presses a button on the hacking tool. Immediately, the room's lights flicker before plunging into a strobe-like chaos. The emergency klaxons blare a deafening wail, and the fire suppression systems engage, releasing a thick cloud of chemical dust. The goons are caught off guard, coughing and stumbling around, their eyes watering from the sudden assault on their senses. You can see Blender's grin falter just as you sock him in the teeth with your adamantium hand. You grab Lila and lift her off her feet, turning to sprint into the passages beyond the fungus pods. Her weight is negligible to your adamantium servos, and she clings to you tightly as you barrel through the thickening haze. The goons are disoriented, but not for long. They begin to recover and give chase, their coughs and curses following you into the labyrinthine corridors. The particulate and strobing lights make it difficult to see, but you navigate into what must be the smuggler's tunnels, hoping to lose your pursuers in the maze of the city's underbelly. The cold metal walls echo with the staccato of their gunfire and the thunderous pounding of their booted feet.
Keep moving!
Lila shouts in your ear, her voice barely audible over the din. You can feel her heart racing against your chest plate, and you know she's scared, but she's also determined to save her sister and take down this monstrous operation. You turn a sharp corner and narrowly dodge a burst of gunfire. The tunnels are a maze of twists and turns, and it's clear that you're not the first ones to use them as an escape route. Graffiti and hastily scrawled warnings cover the walls in a cacophony of neon colors, hinting at the various dangers and secrets hidden in the bowels of New York. The air grows thicker with the smell of stale beer and mold as you descend deeper into the city's underbelly. As you run, you hear the distant sound of water rushing. The sewers. The tunnels lead you to a heavy metal door, unmarked and much newer than the rusted surroundings. Lila, her eyes still watering from the chemical fog, manages to get a grip, and starts to hack into the modern locking mechanism.
It's a Castellanos Corporation lab.
She gasps, her voice strained with the effort of keeping the tool steady. The door's lock clicks open, just as the goon's footsteps grow louder. You shove the door open, revealing a sterile, high-tech chamber filled with monitors and beeping equipment. The stark contrast to the grimy cellar is jarring. Lila stumbles in, and you follow, slamming the door shut just in time to hear bullets ricochet off the other side. She leans against the door, panting, while you scan the room for anything useful. You scan the high-tech chamber, the cold light of the monitors reflecting off bloodstains on the floor, hinting at the darker purposes of the lab. Amongst the beeping equipment and gleaming surfaces, you spot a table laden with various surgical instruments and a few vials of what could be the concentrated cerebriceps spores. The sight of the blood sends a chill through your frame, but you push aside the thought of what may have occurred here. Your adamantium hand clenches into a fist, the need for a weapon now more urgent than ever. You see a discarded pipe wrench on the floor, its metal gleaming in the artificial light. It's not your typical sidearm, but it'll do in a pinch. You bend down and pick it up, feeling its weight and balance. It's hefty, but not unwieldy for someone of your strength. Lila, meanwhile, is working furiously at the control panel beside the door.
I've got the lock sealed, but it won't hold them forever.
That Borg blender. He said your sister had an upgrade installed. Maybe that's how they plan to control the fungus.
The room's monitors flicker to life as Lila's hacking tool interfaces with the lab's systems. A series of images flash across the screens. Evelyn in a hospital bed, the same table with more bloodstains, and what looks like blueprints of the city's infrastructure. The blueprints zoom in on various locations, each marked with the Castellanos crest, indicating potential points of infection or control. The realization of the breadth of Blender's scheme sends a cold shock through the room.
We have to get this to the authorities,
Lila says, her voice trembling with a mix of fear and anger.
This is bigger than just finding Evelyn. He's going to control the whole city with this.
There's slamming sounds at the metal door. It's clear the goons have not given up. You know you don't have much time. You look around the lab, searching for anything that could help you understand or combat the technology being used here. The monitors show detailed schematics of the fungus's effects on the brain, the way it hijacks neural pathways to bend thoughts and actions to its will. It's like nothing you've ever seen. A true nightmare of science gone mad. Lila's eyes widen as she reads through the data.
VZ. They've been using the speakeasy to test the fungus on unsuspecting patrons, turning them into drones for some kind of mind control network.
She stammers, her voice rising with each word.
Evelyn is the key to the whole thing. They've been building up her tolerance so she can handle a pure dose.
A pure dose. And what's that going to do to her?
Lila's face pales even further as she reads the encrypted data.
They're planning to broadcast her brainwaves across the city with a cranial implant. The fungus will respond to her commands, and she'll be able to control anyone who's ingested it.
The gravity of the situation sinks in, and the room feels colder, the air thinner. The slamming on the door grows more intense, the goons' shouts echoing through the chamber.
The pure dose will make her the queen of this hive mind.
Lila continues, her voice strained.
We have to get her out of there before they can do that.
Another question. Where is there exactly? Is she here?
The pounding on the door turns to a persistent hammering as the goons attempt to breach the lab's defenses. Lila, her eyes darting between the monitors and the blueprints, shakes her head.
No, she's not here,
She says, her voice urgent.
The main lab is in Van de Graaf Tower. That's where they're holding her, and that's where they're planning to do the final procedure.
You glance at the pipe wrench in your hand, the makeshift weapon feeling suddenly inadequate against the horrors you're facing.
We need a plan.
You say, your voice a calm rumble amidst the chaos.
And we need to move fast.
The door's integrity alert starts flashing red on one of the screens. Lila's eyes dart around the room, searching for inspiration.
There's got to be an emergency exit.
She murmurs, her fingers flying over the control panel.
How about a service elevator? They had to bring in all this equipment somehow.
Lila's eyes light up at the mention of a service elevator. She quickly accesses the building's layout, and indeed, there's a maintenance shaft not far from your current location.
There it is,
She exclaims, pointing to a spot on the blueprint.
It's sealed from the outside, but we might be able to access it from here.
You both rush over to the spot she indicated, and with a bit of brute force and the leverage of the pipe wrench, you manage to pry open a welded-on panel, revealing an access hatch that leads up to the shaft. The goons' efforts to break through the door are growing increasingly intense, the metal beginning to buckle under the pressure.
We need to go. They'll be through any second.
You squeeze your adamantium frame through the access hatch, the metal screeching in protest. The shaft is narrow, filled with cobwebs and the faint scent of oil. As you look up, you see the service elevator car looming above you, a ladder attached to the wall leading up to it. You hear the unmistakable sound of the door to the lab being breached, the goons' shouts growing louder. You know you must act quickly. You pull Lila through the access hatch, and as you do, the goons burst into the lab. The hatch slams shut, cutting off their pursuit for the moment. You wedge the pipe wrench into the gap between the hatch and the wall, hoping to buy some time. The sound of metal bending echoes up the shaft as you apply your strength to the task. The wrench holds firm, creating a temporary barricade. You both begin to climb the ladder, the sounds of the goons' footsteps receding below you. You reach the elevator car, and Lila quickly hacks the control panel to open it. You pull yourselves inside just as the hatch gives way to a ringing burst of gunfire from below. As the two of you tumble inside, you look at Lila gravely.
I don't think we have much time now that Blender knows we know about Evelyn.
The elevator jolts to a halt at street level, the doors sliding open with a hiss. You and Lila step out into an alley, the rain still coming down in sheets. The sounds of the city are muffled by the thunderous echo of the speakeasy's chaos you've just left behind. You quickly survey the area, checking for any signs of pursuit. The alley is empty, save for the occasional stray robot and the distant wail of sirens. The neon lights from the streets cast a garish glow on the wet pavement. You realize that now that Blender knows you're onto his scheme, he will likely take drastic measures to protect it, including moving Evelyn to a more secure location.
We have to get to Van de Graaff Tower.
Lila says, her eyes on the datapad in her hand.
If we can get there before they start the procedure, we might have a chance to save her.
She looks up at you, her expression a mix of determination and fear.
Let's get off the X before more of these hooligans show up.
You offer her your adamantium arm. You both hobble out of the alleyway, trying to put as much distance between you and the speakeasy as possible. The rain has picked up again, making the streets slick and reflective with neon light. You notice a few curious glances from passers-by, but the crowd, thin though it may be at this early hour, soon swallows you up. Lila fumbles with a small fob from her purse, and a sleek, black hovercar descends from the sky, the engine purring like a contented kitten. It's clear from the luxurious design and the family emblem on the hood that this is her ride. The doors glide open, and you help Lila inside, her injured leg protesting with each step.
Thanks, VZ. Here, you drive.
She pushes the fob into your hand. Lila's face contorts in fresh pain as she feels her injured foot for the first time, sans adrenaline. You nod, sliding behind the wheel and programming the car to navigate to the Van de Graaff Tower. The hovercar lifts off the ground, the engine's hum growing to a whine as you weave through the crowded sky lanes of New York. The tower looms ahead, a gleaming obelisk of power and wealth, a stark contrast to the grimy streets you usually haunt. Once inside the car, Lila fumbles under the seat and produces a medkit with a sigh of relief. She opens it and selects a hypo spray, filled with a potent cocktail of painkillers and regenerative nanobots. She hisses as the cold spray hits her skin, injecting the medicine into her system.
That's the stuff.
She murmurs, visibly relaxing as the pain subsides. She glances over at you, her eyes a mix of gratitude and resolve.
We can't let them do this to her.
You wouldn't happen to have a piece in here, would you?
Lila places her spread fingers on the dashboard, and a seamless compartment pops open. Lila pulls out a large silver pistol from the compartment and hands it to you.
It's fully charged,
she says, a grim look spread across her face. You take the weapon, feeling its weight in your hand. It's a high-tech piece, likely capable of punching through even the toughest of robotic exteriors. Your sensors scan the firearm and simulate its operation a few thousand times, and you play a slow whistle sound effect.
Damn, this is a real hand cannon.
It's a custom-tuned Zeton atomizer. Daddy got me that one for match shooting.
You tuck the atomizer into the inside pocket of your trench coat, feeling its comforting weight against your side. The gun's presence is a stark reminder of the gravity of the situation you found yourself in. The hovercar continues to navigate the crowded sky lanes of New York, the neon lights flashing by as you close in on the Van de Graaff Tower. The rain beats a steady rhythm on the car's windshield, and the tension inside the vehicle is palpable.
I'll head in and get Evelyn, and you keep the car running,
you say to Lila. You punch your RFID code into the car's computer, and a blip representing you appears on the map. You find an unoccupied hoverpad, a small ledge sticking out from the side of the building, close to the lab's suspected location. The rain beats down harder as you bring the car to a hover and park it. Lila nods in understanding, her eyes never leaving yours.
Good luck, VZ.
She slides into the driver's seat and grips the wheel tightly, her knuckles turning white as she braces herself for what could be a lengthy and dangerous wait. The hovercar's engine idles quietly, ready for a swift getaway. You take one last look at her, then step out into the storm, feeling the cold metal of the blaster pressing against your side. You sprint towards the tower's entrance, the rain a wall of static in your audio receptors. The tower's gleaming facade reflects the neon chaos of the city, creating a kaleidoscope of light and shadow. As you reach the entrance, the doors slide open with a hiss, revealing an opulent lobby with a marble floor and a giant holographic chandelier casting dancing lights across the room. The few humans and robots present look up from their business, briefly startled by your disheveled appearance. Ignoring the stairs, you make a beeline for the elevator, punching in the code for the biolab. The elevator ascends, the numbers ticking off like the beats of a doomsday clock. With each floor, the tension builds until you feel like you could crack under the pressure. The doors open, revealing a sleek, sterile corridor lined with unmarked doors. A robotic janitor nods a greeting as it rolls past, oblivious to the chaos that's about to unfold. You and Lila had studied the blueprints well, so you know exactly which door to pick. You approach the lab, the gun at the ready. The door slides open silently, revealing a scene out of a mad scientist's fever dream. Evelyn, her head shaved and wires snaking from her skull, lies unconscious on an operating table. Machines beep and whir, their screens flickering with incomprehensible data. In the corner, a group of scientists, all in Castellanos Corporation's lab coats, are busy at work, surrounded by beer kegs filled with the alien fungus. They've been so engrossed in their twisted experiment that they haven't noticed your entry. Yet, suddenly, you are blasted by gunfire. Lead slugs clatter and ricochet off your body as you scramble for cover behind one of the large beer kegs. Stealing a glance to identify the shooter, you spot Blender and some goons, firing from a second-story observation deck. Damn, the housing of your shoulder actuator is ripped apart. The scientists scream and scatter, diving under tables and knocking over equipment in their panic. Blender and his goons laugh from the balcony, their shots peppering the floor around you. The sound of shattering glass and sparking metal fills the room as bullets ricochet off various pieces of lab equipment. One of the kegs you're hiding behind takes a direct hit, sending a cloud of fungal spores into the air. The scientists' cries of terror turn to gleeful giggling as the spores begin to affect them, their eyes glazing over. Evelyn is still out cold on the operating table, and you know you have to get to her before she becomes another mindless pawn in Blender's twisted game. Actually, she'd be a mindless queen in his game, given her ostensible role in controlling the zombified beer enjoyers. Your musing unit internally quips, you ignore it, and peer over the keg, assessing the situation. The Zetan atomizer feels heavy in your hand as you calculate your next move.
You're too late, VZ.
Blender's amplified voice echoes from the balcony.
Evelyn will be the key to our new world order, a toast to our impending victory.
His goons laugh maniacally, firing wildly into the room below. The smell of burning circuits and the sizzle of laser fire fills the air as you duck back behind cover. You glance around the room, looking for an advantage. The scientists, now under the euphoria of cerebriceps, stumble about, knocking over beakers and instruments. Their laughter is eerie, a testament to the power of the fungus. You need to shut this down, and quickly. Blender leaps from the balcony and grabs a scientist.
Oops, we got you early, Doc, but you'll be okay.
The huge cyborg jams a stim into the human's shoulder, whose body stiffens in response.
Focus up. It's time for the operation.
You raise the Zetan atomizer and let off a volley of blind shots in the direction of Blender and his goons. The powerful blasts tear into the lab equipment and the floor, sending sparks and debris flying. The goons are caught off guard, their laughter turning to shouts of surprise and fear. They scramble to return fire, but their aim is wild and inaccurate. One of the scientists, caught in the crossfire, falls lifelessly to the ground, a twisted smile frozen on his face. You manage to suppress their fire long enough to dart to a more secure position behind a metal cabinet, the bullets ricocheting off your adamantium frame, leaving only minor dents and scratches. The sound of shattering glass and clanging metal fills the room, punctuated by the cackles of the fungus-affected scientists. Evelyn remains on the table, oblivious to the chaos around her. Her chest rises and falls with the shallow breaths of the unconscious, the wires connected to her skull pulsing with an eerie blue light. The room's chaos is a stark contrast to her stillness, and the urgency to save her only intensifies. As you crawl closer to Evelyn, the gunfire from above subsides momentarily. Blender barks orders, his frustration palpable.
Hurry it up, science man, and you idiots, kill that stupid bot.
You can hear the goons regrouping and reloading their weapons. You manage to reach the table she's on without taking any more fire. The blue light pulsing from the wires connected to her skull is growing brighter, and you can see the veins on her face bulging as if something is pushing against them from the inside. The lab's chaos is a cacophony of sounds, but your focus remains on her. The The smell of burning plastics and the faint whiff of the fungus are ever present, a reminder of the danger that you're in. As you're about to disconnect the wires, you feel a powerful impact from behind. You're sent flying across the room, and the atomizer slips from your grasp. The world spins around you as you struggle to right yourself, the floor rushing towards your face. Blender stands over you, his cybernetic arm extended, a blender blade spinning menacingly.
I knew you'd show up, VZ.
He sneers, his voice a mix of human and mechanical.
But you're too late to save the little heiress. She's going to be the cornerstone of my new society.
Blender blenders your arm with his blender arm. Sparks fly off your shoulder housing as he rends it apart and severs your right arm. Your pain replicators go haywire before automatically rebooting themselves, not fast enough to stop your agonized robotic scream. You manage to push yourself back with your left arm, watching as your right arm clatters to the floor. The pain is intense, but your programming allows you to keep functioning, though not without a significant performance decrease.
What's the matter?
Blender taunts.
Missing something.
He laughs as he approaches the operating table where Evelyn lies. The stimmed scientist presents him with a syringe.
You see,
He explains, gesturing to the unconscious heiress.
with Evelyn's little brain implant, basically her own invention, by the way, and the power of the cerebriceps fungus, I can control every being that has tasted my specially brewed beer. They'll do my bidding, and I'll be the puppet master of New York.
His cackles fill the room, the echoes bouncing off the gleaming surfaces of the lab. You force yourself to your feet, clutching your severed right arm like a club, and use the moment of distraction to lunge at Blender. He's caught off guard by your sudden desperate attack and stumbles back, the syringe flying from his grasp. You manage to knock him away from the operating table, sending him sprawling onto the floor. The room seems to wobble around you as the fungus's influence starts to take hold. The edges of your vision blur, and a strange, disorienting warmth spreads through your systems. Despite this, you muster every ounce of strength and resolve to stand between Blender and Evelyn. She's still unconscious, the wires from the mind control device pulsing rhythmically with that eerie blue light. You scramble after the syringe, which has rolled to the edge of a lab bench. The world around you swims in a haze of colors and distorted shapes, but you manage to grasp it with your left hand and pocket it. As Blender recovers from your attack, you swing your severed arm at his mechanical limb, the makeshift club striking a glancing blow as it jams the rotor of his blender hand. He reels back, and you take the opportunity to plunge the syringe into the soft flesh of his neck. The iridescent liquid inside is forced into his system, and his eyes go wide with shock. His body spasms, and the blender blade on his arm comes to a sudden grinding halt. For the moment, he's incapacitated, allowing you to push him away from the operating table once more. You stay low as the room's chaos crescendos. The goons open fire again, their bullets ricocheting off the walls and lab equipment. The sound of shattering glass and sparks fills the air, creating a deadly disco of destruction around you. You discard your severed arm and grab hold of Evelyn, pulling her off the operating table, her limp body surprisingly light in your metallic grasp. Blender has taken a knee. The spore serum must be hitting him hard, and his goons are out for revenge. Despite the pain indicators and the fungal influence, you drag yourself towards the exit, bullets whizzing over your head like angry cyber bees. Your movements are sluggish, and you feel the heat of a laser pistol blast your back, leaving burn marks on your adamantium shell as you reach for the door controls. Suddenly, the door bursts open and a wall of noise and light crashes into the lab. A fully armed SWAT team storms in, their energy weapons blazing in a symphony of destruction. Leela Castellanos, her eyes gleaming with a mix of fear and determination, crawls in behind them and sees her sister, covered in bizarre wires, but alive. She doesn't waste a second. With surprising strength, she hooks Evelyn under the arms and drags her out of the lab, dodging the chaos with the grace of a gazelle. You get up and follow her, crouch running out of the lab as the cops lay down a withering barrage of fire. The room fills with the acrid smell of burnt metal and the screams of the falling goons as you finally reach relative safety in the hallway. Lila and you lay Evelyn down in the corridor, panting. The SWAT team has secured the area, and the sound of combat is receding. You look at her, her chest rising and falling with shallow breaths. The wires and tubes connected to her are a grim reminder of the horror she's endured. Lila's eyes are wide with terror and hope as she looks at you.
Is she...
She starts, but can't finish.
She's gonna be okay.
You reassure Lila, your voice strained from the pain and the effort of speaking through your damaged circuits. The SWAT team members, now focused on securing the tower, pay little attention to the three of you. Lila's eyes are a mix of relief and gratitude as she nods. Paramedics quickly swarm Evelyn and strap her to a gurney. Lady Victoria is with them, her face a mask of concern and relief as she looks upon her daughter. You watch as they whisk Evelyn away, the blue lights of their medical equipment piercing the shadows of the hallway. Blender is apprehended, his body jerking uncontrollably from the effects of the serum. His cackling has turned to a painful giggling wheeze, his eyes wide with terror at his own fate. The lab is left in ruins, the once gleaming surfaces marred by bullet holes and scorch marks. The cerebriceps fungus has begun to die, its once pulsing lights fading to a dull glow. The immediate danger seems to be over, but the echoes of the battle still resonate through the corridor.
Lila,
You synthesize a coughing noise.
I could use a hand. Actually, any chance you can get my arm before they bag it as evidence?
Lila's laugh pierces through the tension in the air, despite the chaos around you. She seems to find humor in your grim situation.
Sure thing.
Soon after, Evelyn is carried away on a hover gurney, and the SWAT team escorts you out of the building. Another ambulance and a robotic emergency repair team are standing by to treat your injuries and attach your lost arm. The scene outside is one of organized chaos, with emergency vehicles and news drones swarming the area. As you're being prepped for medical attention, Lila is by your side. The repair team quickly and efficiently reattaches your arm. The pain a dull throb that you try to ignore.
Thank you.
You murmur, your voice a mix of relief and the lingering effects of the fungus.
Don't mention it.
Lila replies, her voice tight.
This is the least I could do after everything you've done for us. The paramedic said Evelyn is stable and she'll wake up in a day or two.
Lady Victoria approaches you, her eyes red from crying, but a smile on her lips.
Thank you, Vise.
She says, her voice shaking with emotion.
You've brought my daughters back to me. I've transferred double your advertised fee, but I still feel I owe you.
You tip your hat with your good arm.
Just doing my job, Lady Castellanos.
Despite the pain, you manage a smile.
But if you're feeling generous, I wouldn't say no to some free beer.
Lady Victoria laughs, a sound that seems out of place in the chaos around you.
Consider it done. A lifetime supply of our finest. And if you ever need anything at all, don't hesitate to ask.
As the repair team wraps up their work, you manage to stand, a little wobbly, but mostly whole again. Lila takes your good hand and helps you into the back of the waiting hover ambulance. The door closes, and the vehicle lifts off, leaving the Vandergraaf Tower and the chaos of the Cerebriceps conspiracy behind. It zooms through the night, into the hologram-lit skyline of New York.